Alright, so we have a rare snow day here in San Antonio, Texas, and got no electricity, no water, and I looked out my window and I saw this icicle just dripping with water. And I thought, you know what? Now's the perfect time to do a video on shutter speeds. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about shutter speeds. Now originally I wanted to shoot this at a river, just so I could show you the different motions you can get from a flowing river, but it snowed and I saw an icicle dripping water, and I thought, you know what, it gives me something to do while I have no power and no water. So you get a tutorial. So first thing, let's talk about what shutter speed does. So it's called speed for a reason. The faster your shutter speed is, the quicker it's going to snap and take a picture. The slower your shutter speed is, the slower it's going to snap and take that picture. It's going to leave that shutter open, exposing more light as it goes. So if you want more of a misty kind of water scene, you're going to leave the shutter speed open longer. That way it collects more light, and then the motion kind of overlaps on itself, so you get a blurred kind of effect. If you want to, say, freeze a baseball coming at a kid playing t-ball, that is t-ball, right? Yeah. Then you're going to want a faster shutter speed, something that you can really freeze that action with. Now, I did a couple different shots throughout the day of that icicle I was talking about. The first time I didn't change the ISO, so the images I got only started at 320th of a second. But then when I was rethinking about it, I was like, you know what, that's not a fast enough shutter speed to adequately show what I can do. So I went out and reshot it again a couple hours later. Icicles very obviously melted in the beginning pictures you're going to see versus once we hit 3/20th of a second. That's just because I shot it a few hours later, but you still see the full effects as we go on. So we're starting out at 1/8,000th of a second, and I've had absolutely no power here. My battery on my laptop is dead. The only thing that has power here is my cell phone and my camera. So I don't get to look at these pictures alongside with you to kind of talk about them a little bit, but I did make some notes somewhere. I tried shooting this outside earlier, but then my neighbor started cutting firewood. So here we go. Here's my notes. Let's see if I can read them indoors. And sorry about the grainy video quality, but the sun is going down, so I don't have a whole lot of light to work with. Anyways, starting out 1/8,000th of a second, you're going to see that these droplets dripping off of the icicle are completely frozen mid-air. They're crisp. There's absolutely no motion. Everything is completely frozen. And this is going to be at your faster shutter speed. Now, as we drop it down slower, let's get down to 3/20th of a second here. And this is still pretty frozen, kind of like my tongue is. But you can also start to see some motion kind of coming up along in here. And then as we move it, so I can't read my handwriting. Okay, so as we move it down to 1/60th of a second here, you are really starting to see some motion here. So you can see some blurred lines of these droplets that are coming off this icicle. And then as we move it on further again, we get down to 1/50th of a second, and now that droplet has turned into a stream. It looks like it's just kind of continuing on. Now we'll just kind of continue it on here a little ways. Now we get down here to 1/3 of a second, and you're really starting to see quite a bit of motion of this thing. It's nice and misty at this point. Now when we move it on to 1.6 of a second, this here is where my aperture just reached its max and could not go any further. I still shot further at this ISO, and this is the slowest ISO I have. This is at 80. So I couldn't really darken it up without putting on any filters, and I didn't think that filters were really needed to get anything past this. So as we get down to 1.6 seconds, you've got very strong highlights forming in the widest part of the icicle. And then as we jump to 2 seconds, you've got blown out, and pretty much everything come after that is just way blown out highlights, almost just unrecognizable. I'm going to try to clean some of it up in Adobe Camera Raw just to see if I can get some better images out of it, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So this is just kind of showing you what the different shutter speeds will do. Now, keep in mind, if you're trying to shoot fast action or something, you want a fast shutter speed. You want 1/8,000th of a second, 1/650th of a second. If you're, let me grab a camera. So if you're going to be hand holding the camera, I wouldn't go anything below maybe 1/100th of a second or 1/80th of a second. Reason for that is you're going to introduce too much camera shake. Doesn't matter how good you are at holding a camera, you're gonna shake. I think the best I've been able to do without very noticeable camera shake was like 1/160th of a second. And that is where you kind of tuck your arms in a little bit, you hold it up, you click your shutter, and you just kind of hold it there until like a second after it's gone. But anything slower than that, you really want to use a tripod, or you want to set your camera down on a surface where you can let go. You can also use a 5-second shutter delay if you want to eliminate as much camera shake as possible. So you set all your camera settings, you have it on your tripod, you turn on that 5-second delay, you click your shutter, you walk away. Any kind of motion that you introduce just by pressing the shutter, hopefully in 5 seconds it would have stopped. It'll trip the shutter, and that's your best way to eliminate camera shake there. Now hopefully this gives you a good breakdown on what your shutter speeds do. I might come back and add some more of this later once I have lights and I see what I've actually said. But until next time, have fun shooting.